Greetings, fellow scribes! Welcome back to the archive! This week, I continue my series on the races of AD&D 2nd Edition Spelljammer by talking about the Grommam. They're a bit different, but so are many of the races in Spelljammer. Then again, the Spelljammer campaign setting in and of itself is a bit different. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as I talk about the not quite 500-pound gorillas in the room. So what makes the Grommam different from other races? Well, let's start with their culture. First off, culturally speaking, they are divided on gender lines. The core of them, the core of their society, and these cores will spring up wherever there's a large enough community of them, is a predominantly female priesthood that worships a demigod. Now, unlike other races that worship demigods, the demigods of the Grommam actually live in their communities. Now, one of those funny things with what demigod actually means in D&D isn't, oh, well, one parent was a god, one parent was immortal. That's frequently the case, but in Dungeons & Dragons, at least in 2nd edition, demigods were more those entities that had enough worship that they had a spark of divine power, that they were able to grant prayers to their clerics. Going to Dark Sun, well, let's face it, this means the Sorcerer Kings were effectively demigods. But, in Dungeons & Dragons, you have demigod, lesser deity, greater deity, and in some pantheons, an overpower. But that's a topic for another time. The big thing to take away from here is that the Grommam, their core of their society, is built around a predominantly female clergy and a deity, demigod grade only, but a deity that's physically living among them. From there, the males predominantly form the backbone of the Grommam military. Now, what happens is, of course, many of these males end up becoming adventurers, and the only class that both genders can take, although it's more common for the females to take, is cleric. The females can only be clerics. Males can be fighters, thieves, or clerics. Grommam do not multi-class. Actually, they cannot multi-class. And they have some issues. I mean, they can use spelljamming helms, no problem. Their clerics have no problem using the helms. The Grommam don't build their own ships, though. They predominantly buy their ships from humans, and then decorate them with bright and garish fabrics and decorations, and put probably more ropes and such than are needed, just so they can go swinging through the rigging of the ship more easily. Because for them, it's easier. In fact, they add a 25% chance bonus on any climbing checks. Because their feet are like hands. And they have a 9-foot long arm span. On average. Now, what makes them also kind of difficult is they have problems using magical items not specifically made for their class. More so than even the GIF. If a Grommam is using a weapon or a magical item not made for their class, like say a thief is trying to use a wand of fireballs, they have a 40% chance of it malfunctioning. Personally, I think a wand of wonder wouldn't malfunction, just because you don't know what it's going to do anyway. But they also have a sort of interesting bit. So, for most races in Dungeons & Dragons, males and females have the same mechanical racial ability score adjustments. The Grommam don't. Now, this is, of course, because of the culture of them, but the male Grommam get +2 on their strength and dexterity. That's +2 each. Now, for those of you who are used to more modern editions of Dungeons & Dragons, you're probably like, well, that's not much. In 2nd edition, things got a +1. I mean, that was, they either got a +1 or -1. So, a +2 to 2 ability scores is a big deal. However, the male Grommams get a -1 on their intelligence and wisdom. The female Grommams, it's flip-flopped. +2 on their intelligence and wisdom, and a -1 on their strength and dexterity. Oh yeah, the other fun thing is Grommam who are fighting two-handed, or using a weapon in each hand, do not suffer the penalty for the offhand weapon. This is because of just how they're built, I'm guessing. They do prefer weapons that do higher damage, because they're not much for finesse. And that is pretty much them from a mechanical perspective. They can learn Common and Elvish right out of the gate. And they can run spelljamming vessels perfectly well. So they are, well, Grommam are Grommam. They are a race of gorilla-like humanoids. And that's really all there is to say about them. They're probably one of the more straightforward of the races, despite their little differences. Now, this falls into something that's very old school for Dungeons & Dragons, but their society, or as a race, they tend towards being lawful good. This is, many people know that this is more a guideline, but at least in modern eras. But back in 2nd edition, that was sort of a, if you weren't lawful good, you need to explain why. This is one of those things I'm so glad Dungeons & Dragons has moved past the whole painting a race's alignment in broad strokes like that. Because, well, races tend to not be all one alignment. But that is it for the Grommam. Next week, I'm going to talk about the Drakons. So until then, I'd like you all to remember to have fun and keep gaming.